Yeah. It'll be interesting, I think, what happens between the 10th pick and the 11th pick here with the Tennessee Titans. Because there are, I guess, some like they both kind of want a wide receiver or offensive line, I think is where both of these teams are going to be going. And just kind of how, the mock drafts that I've seen have been shaping out. There is probably either, Peter Skoronski maybe being there, or maybe the Bears pick him. I don't know, but if Paris Johnson's there is afterwards, then that could be something too. So all that being said, if Peter Skoronski's out there, yeah, now I think we're getting towards the wide receivers here now. So getting to that range, and that's where I see the Tennessee Titans then picking JSN. But I will say, if JSN, Jaxon Smith-Ngiba, were to be joining the Philadelphia Eagles, that would be a sick team, I think, right? That I think Steve Smith said he has a PhD in route running, right? Fitting him in there with Devontae Smith, and then also AJ Brown, and then that offense, like that will be some sweet music, I think, right? But yeah, I can definitely see them picking Peter Skoronski. Their offensive line is just getting older. But yeah, going back to the Titans, they need some offense. They need some other players other than Derrick Henry, who's only getting older at the running back position. I know they got rid of AJ Brown there too. They have Trey Burke, but they need more weapons on the wide receiver side. So with Quentin Johnson, between Quentin Johnson and Jaxon Smith-Ngiba, for me at least, it's no question. You got to take Jaxon Smith-Ngiba there. I just think he's flat out the best wide receiver, even though he barely played last year. Just what you saw again, that wide receiver room was it like 2 years ago with Olave, Garrett Wilson. He broke the Ohio State wide receiver yard record there with those two first round wide receivers there. So just goes to show you. And with all the talent that's come through Ohio State, like it's just nuts that he was able to accomplish that. So with them kind of going to Malik Willis maybe more so now in the future, or maybe they do stay with Ryan Tannehill for a little bit longer. I definitely think that both of them would love to see a player like Jaxon Smith-Ngiba there.
Yeah, I mean, on the Philly point, that was kind of my concern. It was like, obviously you add a guy like that, it just brings your offense even to a higher level. I figured, just with the fact that they've got, Goddard, they've got Brown, they've got Smith, and they got Jalen Hurts, and they run heavy. I just felt like maybe that would just be a luxury in that sense where, just given the amount of folks that they've lost, like you'd want to maybe try plugging those holes, but you wouldn't go wrong. You grab JSN there too. Like I would be kind of not excited for the rest of the league because I want the Bears to take steps too here, but like, yeah, I mean that'd be pretty fun to watch. Maybe doing a repeat versus the Chiefs, but yeah, no, I think to Tennessee is a great fit. They also lost Robert Woods. He went to Houston, so it's like. Yeah, besides Treylon Burks, I was struggling to think of like who do they actually pass the ball to, and like you're saying, they're still probably wondering if Willis can be their next quarterback, and Tannehill doesn't really feel like probably wanted as much there anymore, and I don't think he truly is. So should be interesting. But if they grab JSN, like that's one of those picks where you just pick it and you're like, we know we're fine like doing that. There's probably no concerns, no raised heartbeat or any sort of like sweat overtaking that pick. It just falls to you. It's easy. And, no doubt, I think he's going to be a gamer.
Yeah. Who do you got next?
Next we go Houston. I had a tough time with this one. Just thinking from the GM's position because, Quentin Johnson is there. You and I both watched him at TCU going into the final. He was pretty much kind of irrelevant in that game. And I don't know how much of that to blame is like Georgia just teeing off on TCU and Max Duggan, or whether or not he couldn't find the space, or maybe was overwhelmed or outmatched by, his defensive, opponents there. I feel like, he's got the size in the frame to be, probably a 1, probably a 2 down the line. I'm just thinking for Houston, that's like, maybe again, like not a foundational piece for where they're at as a team, in my opinion. They grabbed Woods, they have Cooks there. Those are two veteran wide receivers that would probably work with Stroud or Bryce Young right away. In this scenario, it'd be probably Stroud, but you also love Damian Pierce back there too. I mean, he was an absolute like horse, before he got hurt, and maybe Burkhead's got a little bit more tick left in him too. But I'm going to go with Kalijah Cansey here. I feel like, people are dogging him about his size, but overall he's got, the ability to play the 3 technique. He's explosive. He's moving up this draft board like crazy. I feel like, maybe folks were trying to doubt him early on, but he's just, he's graded out high. Maybe a guy who could be a gamer on the next level, plays a position that I think is, really sought after in the NFL these days with, just the evolution of the quarterback and just, in general, the inability to kind of, touch them or whatever else. So it's like, I feel like maybe they'll want to establish, some stake on the defensive side, and they got their franchise quarterback here in Stroud. So, I'd probably go with Cansey just to be safe.
I love Cansey. I almost like him better than Jalen Carter, to be honest, at least for the Bears, and that like he gets to like Jalen Carter. He's definitely, I think, a great balance between a person that can get to the quarterback as well as, kind of be a run stopper there. Cansey's just a flat out pass rusher. He's, nobody looks at him as a run stopper whatsoever. He's got kind of shorter arms, compared to, I guess, Aaron Donald as well. So I know that's been one big comparison, in that they're both kind of smaller in terms of height, defensive tackles there. And both from Pitt as well. So, but Cansey, if you watch his tape, like he knows how to get to the quarterback. I think he's had 8 sacks and like 20, 30 hurries each of the past couple seasons. So I really like him, and I think he's going to be great there. And yeah, with the Texans, they do have some wide outs there. So some a veteran presence there for whichever quarterback that they do take. Could be interesting if they do take Quentin Johnson there, and Texas person, I guess, there, and kind of has maybe some marketability for the Texans, but they have a lot of holes, right? I think that's been their whole thing right there. So I don't see them, or I won't fault them for taking some player on the defensive side. So it can definitely make sense, and I think they've lost some players there in the free agent market as well. So. It can certainly make sense for them taking a player like Cansey here. Yeah. Well, with all that being said there, I think we got the Jets, who are like all of a sudden like the best drafters in the world now. Like had a great draft class last season, and I think heading into this season, I think they're feeling. I think there's a little bit more positivity. Who knows if this whole like Aaron Rodgers thing, comes about or whatever, right? But I think they have some pretty good talent overall already, and they're all pretty young as well. So I think there's a lot of there's a bright future here. So, but I think they do need some tackle help, whoever the quarterback is. But I think here, there's still some tackles I think on the board. Definitely a little bit more on the right tackle position, I think, at least in my opinion, on some of this, but. I think for this kind of player, Broderick Jones is who I have them taking. Physical specimen. From everything I hear, he looks the part, but he is kind of raw and kind of just goes. Which is kind of it's interesting. We talk about Georgia as like this, great college football school and everything prepares you for the pros. But Broderick Jones, again, everything I'm hearing from all the draft experts looks the part, but doesn't have the fundamentals necessarily, and like. Is able to kind of get away with things because of his stature and his size, his arm length. So, but I think for the Jets, hey, let's take that guy with some upside there, and Broderick Jones has the physical traits to play. Probably a right tackle there, potentially left tackle. We'll see. But at least at right tackle, I think that they can protect. Again, whichever quarterback they have there. So getting more protection for the Jets there at pick 13. Broderick Jones.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think that's a safe pick for the New York Jets. Hopefully, at some point this Aaron Rodgers saga will end. But if it ends in a bad way and they're stuck with Zach Wilson and now Mike White is down in Miami, smoking Cubanos and everything else like that. Like, I don't know, man. Like, do you think the Jets would like possibly jump at a guy like Levis here too? Like, if they were like a little panicked or whatever else, like, do you think that maybe in the realm of possibilities?
I mean, that could be interesting, right? But then it's like, do you have two, high upside failed quarterbacks then at the first round? I mean, that's something. It's like they're both young, right? But so that's something where I feel like it would be nice if they had some sort of veteran quarterback to, kind of be an insurance to Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson right now kind of is that veteran quarterback, so it's a little bit of a, I guess, sad and bad situation that Aaron Rodgers kind of has them hostage, the Jets there. So, but this could potentially be a pick that they use to trade for Aaron Rodgers, right? I think that's been the asking price is a first rounder in this year's draft. So, this potentially could be the Green Bay Packers draft pick here. So, but yeah, I definitely won't. I mean, if I'm the Jets, I'd go with whatever backup quarterback I could pay, some veteran, and then stick with Zach Wilson for a year. There's too many question marks in my opinion for Will Levis. It's almost like Zach Wilson 2.0. All the physical traits in the world, but in my opinion, it definitely looked like Zach Wilson had a little bit more production in the college level, a lot more production in the college level than Will Levis. And just more question marks there, but. Will Levis looked really good in his pro workouts. Just I think a lot of question marks. So, but that could be fun though if that were to happen.
Well, we'll see. But I guess moving on to 14, the Patriots quarterback is something they have listed as a need. Looking down at Zach, Mac Jones, and you've got Bailey Zappi behind him, who was kind of getting these half starts, or maybe it was like the closer in some senses last year for Belichick. Like, I've seen a lot of rumors that Belichick is like having some doubts about Mac Jones going into this season and stuff, but like I just think it would be a shame to kind of pull the plug there this early on. Like, I just feel like he hasn't been bad enough, or even bad where you're like, we need to start considering replacements here. Like, I'm sure Belichick's like appetite for mediocrity is like much lower than everybody else in the NFL as far as coaches go. But they also have a needed edge rusher, and I just feel like we've talked about Nolan Smith, being that high caliber athlete. I mean, I feel like he's getting dinged on his size, but he's a guy who's going to line up on the edge. He can play a little bit of linebacker too. I just feel like in his system, Belichick's like created so many great linebackers over the years. Guys like Dante Hightower, Brewski, Vrabel, other folks. Like, I just feel like he has his like fingers on the pulse of what his defense needs at all points. And he's the kind of guy where if Nolan Smith just fits into that system, he's a high character guy, comes from a great program, has all the ability, but it's just like, hey, this guy needs more muscle mass or whatever else it could be. Belichick's the kind of mastermind where I feel like he'll, get all the juice out of Nolan Smith that he possibly can. And I just feel like Nolan Smith would fit, really well into that system, in my opinion.
That's a great pick. I mean, it totally makes sense. They have there's some talent there, I think, on the defensive front, on the front seven. But in my opinion, you can't have too much. And having a difference maker such as a Nolan Smith, who again, he ran a 4.3 like as an edge rusher. I think he definitely fits the mold. I think of what Belichick likes, an intelligent football player. That's simply that's kind of what Nolan Smith is, as well as a physical, again, running a 4.3 there on the edge. So I think that would be a great pick if Nolan Smith were to kind of fall there, not be selected by the hometown team, Atlanta Falcons. I think with that's the best thing to have, when you have a quarterback controversy, if you will, between Mac Jones and Zappi. It's like, oh, let's have a killer defense and let's just shut out the other team. So Nolan Smith could definitely, I think, help out with that. So I think that would be a great pick for them. Cool. So with that, I got our rivals up north there, the Green Bay Packers, and you were just talking about them and Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to try to see if Jordan Love is the guy. They did draft him the first round now a couple of years ago, so I think they're going to just try to get him some weapons. And I think now that I'm looking at the board here, I see Quentin Johnston here. So Packers getting Quentin Johnston. I think that totally makes sense. Having that wide receiver room now. I know I was contemplating tight end a little bit, but I think Quentin Johnston, when he got that high upset player, like think about that, like having those high upset players of Christian Watson and Quentin Johnston out there. I think that's pretty awesome there. I think you can do some things, do some wonders over there if you're Jordan Love or whomever, like big, tall, fast wide receivers. So that can definitely be, I think, a fun pick there for the Packers.
Yeah, I like it. Him and Watson being the new pair in Green Bay with Love under center, completely changing the face of the Packers from here on going forward. Hopefully Rodgers is out. He's traded. There's no reconciling. There's no additional year. Like, we just kind of end this all and start anew. But yeah, just based on all the things that they're probably going to need without a guy like Rodgers there, again, just go after the top talent available. They have put a lot of stock into their defense over the last few drafts, especially, last year I feel like they used 2 high value picks on, I believe it was linebacker and the front 4, I should say. But yeah, I think this is a smart pick. We were debating him at 12. Other places too would probably make sense for Johnston. So, Green Bay, they need wide receivers for sure after losing, I think, all the old guys too. I think Cobb's out now. So getting rid of the old guys and bringing in the new, and I think that's a good fit for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, who do you got next for your local team over there, the Commanders?
Yeah, I mean, not that I'd ever don the burgundy and gold or anything like that, but I've actually been to FedEx Field, and it's a complete atrocity. Not to slight everybody here in DC, but I think everyone would agree, like, actually going to a game is miserable. The stadium's a joke. The food is terrible. The parking, it takes an hour to get in and out. And if you decide to take the metro from downtown, you've got to walk a mile from the metro to the stadium. So FedEx Field, please, get some dynamite, blow that thing up, and move the team to Northern Virginia so that my property value and my entertainment districts will get expanded out here. But all that aside, Commanders, you're sitting here at 16. What do you need? You need a quarterback. And Will Levis, you have just found your next home. I'm picking Will Levis from Kentucky. Obviously battle tested at SEC, got the size, had a great combine, is a down the field passer. I feel like with Scorin McLaurin, that's just a good, pairing right there. I feel like, some deep balls to Terry would be a lot of fun. In general, this team's just been needing somebody that they can kind of look to. I don't think Sam Howell's the answer. Taylor Heineke, honestly got dogged a lot in Washington. I feel like, didn't really get his fair due out of the gate last year, and kind of proved, once Carson Wentz was doing his Carson Wentz, that, hey, I'm a professional here, in this game. And, he's hit or miss. Sometimes he had some poor games, but I do think he's very gritty as a veteran. He'll do well, I think, with the Falcons here moving forward. But, Washington's not going forward, I don't think, with Sam Howell as their only option at quarterback. And, even with that, he was a later round pick last year. I still, we don't know, the case is still out on what he can do at the next level, but I just think Levis is the guy. This is a good spot for him to go. If all these other teams happen to pass on him, I don't think Washington would. So that's my pick there.
Yeah. And this was the one team that that I was looking at. I think it was between the Commanders, and then I know we got potentially the Seahawks, right, a little bit later too. Geno Smith is only kind of getting older. He's like 32, 33, right? So that was the only other slot I could probably see him. Otherwise, he would probably get out of the first round here. So and I think it makes sense, right? Like, and I was kind of like looking at the Commanders, their entire roster, like, they're pretty loaded, overall. I think they have good talent in pretty much each position. Their defense is rock solid all around. So, I think here in the draft, there's a lot of defensive talent, but then you look at who's available. It's like, yeah, why not the high upside quarterback over there? Let's see if Howell can make it a little bit, give him a shot. But if he can't, or, hey, maybe let's wait like 8 games in or 10 games in, get Levis's footing in there. Why not give him a shot? Let him rock it. And, there's a lot of talent. Again, like I mentioned, a nice supporting cast. You mentioned Floor McGordon over there. So, like, why not? Let it fly a little bit with Levis. So, I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, and just like neglected Jahan Dotson being drafted last year. Curtis Samuel is like really explosive. I think he's a good slot receiver. He can run with the ball a little bit. Logan Thomas has been, kind of one of those higher upside tight ends they always talk about. But if nobody's feeding him the ball, you can never really kind of live up to his own potential. And then, Brian Robinson, obviously without the gunshot wound, issue kind of going into this year, that's one thing. But then Antonio Gibson's kind of like a do-it-all type. I mean, he has lived up to his own potentials too, but it's like, you're absolutely right. They have a lot of pieces to just assemble that offense, and they're just waiting for that guy to walk in and be like, hey, let's do this. So hopefully Will Levis is the guy for Washington because they desperately need a quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. Next pick here, Steelers. I was looking at the talent here, and there's one that definitely I recognize that name. Joey Porter Jr. How about that? I think that they do need some DB help a little bit there. He played quarterback, nice. Has all the physical traits, and hey, you can't ignore the whole his dad played, make it a family business, right? So I think that'd be really cool. Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, one of the top cornerbacks, in this entire draft for sure. So I think here it makes sense for them to take him. Other positions, maybe I see tackle and linebacker. I think linebacker, probably too soon for that right now. Tackle, yeah, I think for me it was best player available, and then positional value too, and that's where I see Joey Porter Jr. makes the most sense. I feel like for the Steelers, getting some of that name recognition in there too. Certainly doesn't. It definitely adds, I think, to the flavor there. So, but I think he can make he makes good sense here for the Steelers.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, kind of carrying on the legacy of his dad and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if it's true as much in football. Maybe it is, but at least in baseball, anytime there's a son of a great player, some of them usually turn out to be pretty damn good. So hopefully he's learned a lot from Joey Sr. over the years. And, Joey Porter Sr. always had that swag and attitude and stuff. So hopefully his son's got the same, but would seem to be a good fit for Pittsburgh because that's their their MO, their DNA. They're just about being physical and being tough. And, he wouldn't have to, go too far to kind of suit up for the Steelers as it is, being from Penn State and stuff. So, I think that's a good fit. And, I think everybody's looking for, extra DB support, especially young, controllable support at that. So I think that's a great fit.
Yeah, cool. Who do you got next for the Detroit Lions?
I know, I feel like I'm picking for the Lions now, and I'm I'm actually finding some good fits for them. It's like, damn, this is disheartening for me as a Bears fan because I'm like, man, I'm just helping these guys out at this point. But I think at this stage, they're looking also for some offensive support. They could go wide receiver, but a lot of the great players I think so far have kind of moved off the board, and I think they could get their first cracks at any tight end that they want, and that's a position that they are looking for. After trading last year, they got rid of Hawkinson. They traded him in division to the Vikings, and I think Hawkinson had a pretty decent second half with Kirk Cousins and folks. So with that, they have their kind of choice to have a young, controllable tight end, and it just kind of comes down to what they actually need. I mean, are they looking for a guy who's more of a receiver type? Go kind of Dalton Kincaid has the speed. They say he's like a natural receiver at that. He may be kind of a hybrid of a wide receiver tight end. So if they're looking for, just support and pass catching, that may be your 1A, and your 1B is Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I mean, he seems to be more traditional, but it's stronger. I'm sure, he's obviously had a lot of, catches, receiving yards in his junior year at Notre Dame and stuff. So it's kind of like, who are the Detroit Lions? What are they actually going to need To me, I feel like if you had more of a run threat quarterback, you might go the Michael Mayer route, just somebody who's like a bit better of a blocker, somebody's a little bit more physical, kind of, establishing that presence at the front of the line. But with Goff and, who knows what their replacement might be a quarterback down the line, but I feel like they just need a little bit more receiving support at this point. So I'd probably lean towards Dalton Kincaid at that pick. So I guess I'll just make it official. I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid. Hopefully he's a complete bust for the Lions. He never accomplishes anything in the NFL. And, we all laugh about this down the line, but I'll go there.
Yeah, you hear that, Dalton Kincaid? You got a hater over here. So let's get it on. But it makes sense. Getting rid of Hawkinson now. And it was kind of a surprise, right? They get rid of Hawkinson and then all of a sudden they're good, right? Not because he's bad, just, the offense started to click and the defense started to click more. So, it makes sense. I think they can either take a tight end here. I see Lucas Van Ness there too. He can certainly make some sense. They did address, I think, the secondary pretty well this offseason. So probably won't look at that here. But I think probably other defensive line here, maybe the Lucas Van Ness if he's still available. Or Kincaid or Meyer. Yeah, I think it either makes sense there. So, but I think Kincaid definitely makes the most sense. I think you nailed it there. Just a good pass catcher. So
if they grabbed Van Ness though with Hutchinson and then Jalen Carter in that first spot, like, I don't know, man, that might actually be too tempting to pass up. Like I'm not going to overlook that, for any reason, but I do think like, that could be pretty scary for the future.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and then Lucas Van Ness, he had a heck of a comp. I think I ran like a 4.5 at like 270, close to 280. I think it's like 275, 6'5" or something like that. And all the broad jump stuff, like, yeah, really good athlete overall. So yeah, having him and Hutchinson and Carter, like, yeah, that's pretty deadly. And their offensive side of the ball, like, there's still some pretty decent tight ends I think you can get, second, third round as well. So like this is a pretty good tight end draft. So I definitely think that, if Van Ness is right there, I would love to take him if I were the Lions GM. I would hate it if I am a Bears fan. So that's definitely where it's like I feel pretty good about that Paris Johnson pick then versus JSN. So cool.
Sure.
But I guess moving on with the Buccaneers, looking at the roster, I think they need a safety here. I do see. I think they could use a tight end here, and that's so it certainly is where Kincaid, if he was available, or Myers, that could make sense. But I think they got Auden. I think they're fairly comfortable with him for now. Maybe add some depth later, but I think they could definitely use some safety help here. So I'm going to take Brian Branch out of Alabama. Best safety in this draft, and pairing him with Winfield there, I think that's a solid middle of the field secondary right there that you can have for the next couple of years at least, right? So I think that with their defensive front can help shore things up, and they could probably get some offensive line help, but I think with Branch right there for me, you got to select him. I think he's probably better in terms of his worth or his overall talent. I think he's better than probably some of the tackles here. Like you mentioned before, I think some of the tackles here probably have some question marks a little bit more. Brian Branch, best safety in this draft, I think. So, I have Buccaneers taking him here.
Yeah, I think Branch is one of those guys just kind of looking at his, his reviews and such. Like he's just a pure football player. I think he's going to be great wherever he goes. I think he's going to be a steal for wherever it gets him. And it's probably justifiable that he goes even higher than where you just grabbed him. Just maybe I could see a guy like Belichick wanting to grab a guy like Branch, even if he doesn't necessarily need him, off the bat. He just kind of feels like he's going to be a Pro Bowler. And, if he happened to go to Tampa Bay, I mean, they have a lot of needs overall with Brady and folks departing at this point. But I think he's a foundational piece on the defense. I did see that the Bucs recently signed Ryan Neal away from the Seahawks. So Seahawks are next on the board. I was kind of hoping Branch would fall so I could just slot him right into that position. But in the same sense, I don't know what kind of scheme Tampa Bay is going to run. In the same sense, I think Neal's on a 1 year. So if you're making a consideration there, you need safety help and you need somebody who's going to be like kind of a a future stalwart at that position, like go for a guy you think's going to be like a perennial Pro Bowler at that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, who do you got the Seahawks taking here now?
Yeah, you kind of threw me out of whack. I was looking around at the big board and seeing what my options were at this point. We were just talking about him a lot, but Van Ness, like give me Van Ness. Like you've already grabbed Tyree Wilson there at the number 5 overall. Why not get a little bit more edge support on both sides? 2 young guys who can really give it a go. He's a 3 technique, very powerful, 6'5". I think you said he had a great combine. A lot of people are talking about him being kind of, a Bears consideration pick at number 9. I've heard there's been other talks like of him, even as high as I've seen him in some mocks up near Atlanta or possibly Las Vegas. I don't know if Detroit's in on that too, but it seems like his name's been kind of moving up the boards as we've, gone, deeper into the offseason here, getting closer to the draft. So I think Seattle's the type of team that's just going to probably take the best player off the board. And, that pairing could be also pretty deadly for years to come in Seattle.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. They're Pete Carroll, I think his defense, usually he just likes like very position flexible type of defensive linemen. So it's like, yeah, players that can play on the edge or the 3 tech, which, Tyree Wilson and Lucas Van Ness, like they both have that capability. So why not get 2 studs there on the defensive front? So if that were to happen, I think that totally makes sense. So yeah, I mean, great positional value for sure as well. And if he falls this deep, man, that would be such a great pick for them. So.